all these dreams, I'm getting very close. Your work shouldn't feel like work if you really love it. If you set and you know your worth, then think if it's worth it. But I do count my blessings first, so you know I'm grateful every night. But watch me, baby, I'ma take it there. Tell ya I'ma stay the path. Tell ya I've been chasing all these dreams, I'm getting very close. Here we go. Your work shouldn't feel like work if you really love it. If you set and you know your worth, then think if it's worth it. But I do count my blessings first, so you know I'm grateful every night.
Welcome to the Mind Growth Mission podcast. This is your host, David Schweit. Today I have a super special guest, but first, the reason I have this podcast is to have special people on with special stories, inspiring stories, and just giving that good message, the positive vibes that are out there, and giving it to the world. There's a lot of people that I've met in my life that are inspirational. There's a lot of people that made me laugh, and this is the first time I actually get an entertainer. And this guy is truly blessed to give the delivery he gives. But think about it. One of the hardest professions out there, I would say, is in entertainment. But it's not just like an actor or what have you. It's a comedian. To go up there and make people laugh, that's one of the hardest things. A lot of pressure on you. But this is my friend, Clint Coley. What's up, man?
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing? Thank you for having me.
No problem. But Clint, I was truly impressed by you in the stand-up, man. We were there for a work event. You know, we had a big group, and I was probably one of those hecklers. Might have had a couple drinks, got a little loose for the night. But, man, I don't remember laughing so hard in a while before that, man. And I just want to get to that because with you doing what you're doing is so impressive. You're one of these guys that I look up to in the industry. You were crowned the Prince, D.L. Hughley, and even some others you've worked with and been up there with some of the big names. So I just kind of want to give a shout out to you, all the things you've done as far as like acting, writing, doing your comedy, doing your stand-up, going all over the world to do it. It's super impressive. I know you're on your way. You're a young star in the game. So just tell me, man, what are some of your influences and what are some of your motivations with doing what you do?
As far as the motivation, I think motivation is more so just working hard to do what you love, right? Like I'm motivated by the fact that the motivation is more so I don't want to regret not doing what I love to do, right? So it's like I don't want to be in a situation where I'm doing something that doesn't make me happy, right? Like I think at the end of the day, so many people work jobs that they don't like, and I don't want to be that guy who's working a job or working something that I just don't like. Like I always want to be doing something that makes me happy. So that's the motivation behind starting stand-up. As far as influences, I don't really have any, to be honest with you. All right, nobody really influenced me. I started doing it because I wanted to do it. And I didn't do stand-up I didn't get into stand-up or get into comedy because I saw somebody else do it and thought I could do it. It was just like it was kind of like a dare, you know what I'm saying? And then next thing you know, I started taking it seriously. So I can't really say I was influenced by anybody, but what I can say is that, motivation for sure is doing something that makes me happy and waking up every morning and saying I get to do something that I love and not doing something that I have to do.
Well, hey, man, not only that, with you doing it and being happy doing it, you're making others happy, and there's not many career paths that offer that. So I love that, man. So
I don't really care about making everybody else happy, though.
Nah, no. Well,
because here's the thing: making other people happy that's not my mission. You know what I'm saying? Like, and at the end of the day, right? Like, if you try to make other people happy, right? Like that's low key. Like that actually, leans into you being unhappy because you're doing things that make you unhappy, or you're doing things trying to please others. So I mean, yeah, I'm glad that my profession or me giving laughter brings people joy, but that's not why I do it.
Yeah, that's a better way to put it. What you're doing is actually bringing laughter, bringing people joy. And with that being said, man, when you're up there performing, did you have to get those jitters out early on? Was this something just a work in progress, or was this something like the first time you're on stage, you just felt it and the delivery came easy?
No, it didn't come easy. I think nothing comes easy, right? You got to work at it. Nobody's going to be great the first time you do something. So yeah, and I still get jitters. You still got to work out. Stand up no matter how good you are, no matter how long you've been doing it, some nights it just may not be your night.
For sure.
That's just part of the game.
For sure. And I'm sure there's been times where it's a little uncomfortable, maybe up there on stage for you, even to this day, right? Maybe you got a new joke and you're trying to work it out and seeing how the crowd feeds off of it. I've heard different comics talk about that, but I don't want to go too far down that path there. But I just want to know, man, with somebody like you doing what you're doing, what's kind of next on the agenda for you? Is it more stand up or is it kind of venturing out to other things? Because I see what you're doing on social media, and I get some love out of that and some nostalgic feel out of that since you bring out the music and stuff we grew up on since we're both in our 30s. But
Hmm.
what's next for you?
As far as what's next, just I mean, I don't really like talking about what I got going on, right? Because I think like for me, it's like no, no, for real though, like right, like it's just kind of like you gotta, it just gotta happen, right? Like what you're doing, like I'm right now, I'm in the planning phase, right? So it's like, I got some things happening in the fall that's about to hit, and I'm keeping it close to my chest until it happens. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry to burst or to not answer the question per se, but no, but at the end of the day, right? Like I'm a creative, right? Like that's all we have is our art, right? So it's like,
Mm.
yeah, you can tell, I got the podcast going right now, the Music is Love Language podcast. But as far as anything I have going on in the future, like I got to keep that close to the chest. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I love that response though, man. That's why I do this. I want to get into the mind of people that are climbing the ladder and going about their business in different ways and
Hmm.
going after different career fields and what have you. I want to get into the mind of that. So these responses, I mean, that's what I'm looking for, man. So definitely don't hold
Thank you.
back there and don't worry about that. But one thing I can say about you is that when you get up there, you do have a certain way of delivery, man. And I know you're from Philly, so I want to bring that up a little bit. I tried to
Hmm.
ask what's good about Philly. Like if I were to come up there, you're like different strokes for different folks, basically. But
Yeah.
what did growing up in Philly teach you, and maybe what was some of that like?
I mean, growing up in Philly just taught me, right? Like, like I got street smarts, right? I'm not saying I'm a thug or I'm somebody who's a tough guy, but I grew up in the inner city where there's millions of people here, right? So like you get a taste of, like you get a taste of a lot of personalities and a lot of a lot of how different people live and stuff like that. So um growing up in Philly was just me like, you essentially like it was a melting pot in a sense. You know what I'm saying? Like you gotta adapt, and it taught me how to, as I got older and then moved to different cities, that I had I apologize, that I had to but yeah, that I had to adapt. Like that's the main thing that Philly told me. It taught me.
Yeah, and I see this in like the business world from my end. I've been in sales, consulting, what have you, but people that have moved to big cities, it really challenged them and stressed them in different ways, right? Kind of prepared them
Yeah.
for more later. So I think growing up in an environment like that where it's fast moving and you got to get along with different types of groups and you see different types of groups and that diversity out there. I think that's important, man. So a lot of people that like take that leap
In
of
a half
faith,
mile,
go out
keep
there,
right
get
toward
out of
8th
their
Street using the right lane.
it's getting even
He
louder
just
over there.
yeah,
But
because he just won't turn it. Like bro, like I've said it 3 times and he just don't listen.
yeah, it's all good, man. But no, what I'm getting at is that change of environment for some, right? You grew up in that busier environment, but I think that was important. I'm from a small town, moving to a big city, seeing the opportunities and just getting along with different types of groups. I thought that was really important. But for
Hmm.
you, we were just talking a few days ago. You were telling me how you were in LA and now you're back in Philly and getting ready to do the next thing, right? And you've been all over the country, all over the world. So what does that teach you kind of moving around and being around these different groups and these different cities? Have you noticed anything? Because I get a lot out of travel myself, but how has that helped you at all, if any?
I mean, you just get to see how different people live, right? You get to get out of your own bubble, right? You don't when you're traveling the country or you're traveling the world, right? Like you get to see multiple perspectives, right? You're not just pigeonholed to how you live. You go around and you see how other people live. You see what other people, how they think and stuff like that. So like, yeah, like how somebody thinks in Philly is different than how somebody thinks in Des Moines, Iowa. You know what I'm saying? So it's, that's really the main thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I notice with your stand up, and this is, I think, important with any comedian, that they got to be storytellers, right? And for
Not all of
you,
them. No, you don't have to be a storyteller.
all right, so go more into that.
Right toward 8th Street.
I choose
Then
to be
turn
one
right
because
on
that's just
North
who I
8th
am, right?
Street.
But you, as a comedian, you have to find out who you are, who you are, and what you're not. You know what I'm saying? I know
Yeah.
who I am. I know what makes me funny, right? Like I had to dig. It took time to find that out, though, right?
Mm.
Like I had to literally dig deep and figure out like what makes me funny, and I had to go back to like when I was a kid and when my I was around my friends and family growing up. Like, why did they say I was funny? Oh, Clint knows how to tell a really good story, but everybody's not the same.
And did you have any mentors to help you along the way?
You talk about like in comedy? Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, DL Hughley was my mentor.
Yeah. And I saw you toured with him.
Sometimes it's just the right place at the right time. It's not hard work. I'm not trying to be that guy, right? But I'm just being honest with you, right?
Nah, yeah.
Like DL didn't bring me on. DL didn't bring me on. He didn't know me and didn't know that I worked hard. He found out that I worked hard, right? He
Right.
gave a guy. He gave me a chance because I was just there. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And that same thing with Kevin, right? Like, and that was a one time. Like with Kevin, that was a one time thing, right? And that
Right.
was off a whim, but that had nothing to do with hard work. That had nothing to do with my. It just was right place, right time. Sometimes, man. Like it was the luck of the draw. So at the end of the day, right? Like those big names is cool, right? But I don't like that. Doesn't those big names also don't? I think I'm a big name too, right? Like I think
Absolutely.
I'm in this. We're all in the same conversation. I sell out shows just like they sell out shows, just
Yeah.
on a different scale, and they've also been doing it a lot longer than me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And I was talking about your
In
delivery
a quarter
earlier,
mile, turn right on Market Street.
and the way you bring it, man, is like nobody else that I'm seeing out there in comedy. So I appreciate that. Truly.
I,
I love that, man. And
thank you.
I got a lot out of it, like I was saying before. But with kind of where you're at now with the music being a love of yours, and kind of comparing the albums, and you putting them versus each other, what kind of brings you there to bring stuff up that's maybe like, a little older, something I know you're trying to find like timeless stuff as well that's out there, and kind of compare that. And I remember you were talking about like DMX
Turn
album
right on Market
recently,
Street. Then drop off.
and some other big albums along the way. But what got you into the music aspect, talking about that, doing that with your podcast? Because I get a lot of enjoyment about your social media and what you're putting out there, man.
So doing a music podcast is more so just it's for me, right?
Yeah.
Again, we talk about doing something that makes you happy, right? I debate music with my friends all the time, right? So just the podcast is just an extension of how I like to debate music, talk music, whatever. You know what I'm saying? And it's not even just about it's about whatever we decide to talk about, right? Like there's so many layers and facets to what music is that I love. And that's just something that it's just something that makes me happy. I like talking about it. It really derives from the fact that I was a history major in college, and I love history, and then you compound that with my love for music. It's just a thing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love that. And now music
So
is a big part for me, man. I love that. I get a lot out of it. Obviously the different moods, the different things you're into, the different phases we go through, right? But
mm.
let me ask you, man, what's one of the hot topics lately that you've had with music that's kind of getting a lot of buzz,
Drop
a
off.
lot of feedback? Maybe putting an album versus an album, or an artist versus an artist. What is one of
so
the
that,
more
that
recent ones?
so the premise of my podcast is not putting an album versus an album or artist versus an artist, right? What we do is we don't do that. We have an in-depth conversation about a topic, and then because like I don't compare artists or I don't compare albums, right? What I do is that I talk about an artist, but yeah, we don't compare albums and stuff like that because like, as a thing, a lot of times when you compare albums, that's not fair to the artist. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
What we have in-depth conversations about what these albums and what they bring to you, what they do for you, what makes what you actually um what do you remember about it? You know what I'm saying? Like how did it make you feel? You know
right.
what I'm saying? So as far as a hot topic right now, that's doing well. That's hard to say, right? Because I mean, I kind of got a topic every day, and they kind of all, for the most part, do what they do. They all kind of do well. They all kind of, you know what I'm saying? It's hard to
Yeah.
pick out just one hot. You know what I'm saying? That's
Yeah,
hard.
for sure, man. I love music, so I just wanted to see if there's any on top of your mind right now that you can think about that like just come to mind right away though? Any that you guys
Um,
ranked recently that you're like,
I mean, yeah, we did the top 50 greatest hip hop
mm-hmm,
artists. Yes, because Billboard put out their list. We did too, but what we did was instead of because Billboard just gave us a list and didn't give us any context to the list. It was just like, oh, here it is.
yeah.
There was no context. We gave a list and then we gave like extensive context on exactly why we feel the way we feel, what the criteria was, and kind of stuck to that.
Have you already came out with like your number one, or are you getting there?
Yeah, no, I mean, the list is out. You
All
know,
right, all right,
from 1 to 50.
all
Number
right.
one was Jay-Z, and I think that's we talking universally speaking.
Yeah,
Most people probably feel the same way.
yeah. I mean, I mean, I grew up on that, man, and I mean,
Yeah.
everybody was listening to Jay-Z, no matter who you were. Everybody was
Hmm.
listening to that at the time, man.
Hmm.
So, and each of his songs kind of appealed to, different things as well in life and whatnot, and
Hmm.
a lot of fun to go with that too. So, more serious stuff, and there was more fun stuff, and it was just a lot of fun album. Which album in particular, though, is one of yours
We
favorite?
didn't. Oh, what you saying? Which one of my?
For
Which
you,
one
for
of
you.
his albums is my favorite?
Yeah.
Um, um, my favorite Jay Z album is that was probably the one I have the most connection with, just based on the fact that it came out on September 11th, 2001. I
Mm.
remember where I was. I remember the fact that I bought the album. I went out to the store, bought the album, I skipped school, went and bought the album. Then when I got to school, come to find out it was time to go home because of everything that was going on.
That's wild. Yeah.
Yeah,
Which album was that in 2001?
the Blueprint.
Oh yeah, classic, bro. Yeah. So, nah, I mean, he's a legend, man, and still killing it in different ways as entrepreneur and everything else, right? Businessman, business minded, and what he does. And let me ask you though too, because some of your stand up that I heard talks about relationships, and I know you love talking about like how things feel and whatnot. So with the relationship aspect of it, can we expect to see more comedy out of you talking about relationships and maybe modern day dating or modern day what have you?
I think that my comedy is based off of whatever I'm dealing with at the time and whatever I'm going through in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not necessarily. I mean, it could be just like, it could be, hey, I'm talking about relationships because I'm going through that particular thing at this particular time. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So I can't say to expect more. I would say to expect whatever I'm dealing with at the time is what if that makes sense. Whatever I'm
Nah,
dealing with at
perfect.
the time, you know what I'm saying, is what I talk about.
Perfect. And yeah, what really stuck with me during the stand up I saw of you, man, is how you made it feel like it was the first time, for anybody to hear it, even though it was already out there. There might have been
Hmm.
some stuff on like YouTube already and you've performed it,
Hmm.
but you do it as if it's like a first time energy, right? You bring that energy every time. So how do you kind of psych yourself up to get on stage to be able to perform that delivery, do that performance, and be able to knock it out of the park? Because you're going to have some things that might throw you a little bit. Maybe, I mean, you've already been on stage enough, but hecklers and people, in the audience and how you handle that and how you're witty with that. So tell me about like the preparation there, maybe mentally.
There's there's no mental preparation at this point. I've been doing stand
Mm,
up for 16 years, right? Like
yeah.
at this point now, it's repetition. It's like I've been doing this so long that it just comes second nature. It's hard to really say like, how do you mentally prepare? There's no like it's not like this is look, let me tell you something. Comedy is not science, right? Like it's not this isn't this is not a hard sport. You know what I'm saying? Like comedy is exactly what it is. It's comedy, right? Now, yes, there's an art form and there's a skill to it. I won't deny that because anybody just can't do it. But this is not science. This is not, you know what I mean? Like comedy is what it is. You know what I'm saying? And I don't, yeah, when it comes to like preparing and blah blah all that other stuff, like for me, I prepare. I don't have to prepare for what happens. I just need to prepare for what I know I want to say. Whatever happens on the fly, and I just deal with it. You know what I'm
And,
saying?
yeah, and maybe early on, was there anything you had to do to help you memorize, let's say, some of this?
Not really. I mean,
Okay.
because you don't, because here's the thing, right? When you first start out, you're not doing 30, 40, 50 minutes. You're doing five. You're doing 3 to 5 minutes. If you can't remember what you want to talk about in 3 to 5 minutes, then maybe you just don't need to. You don't need to be there.
True. And I know we can't talk about what's next for you, man, but uh, you've done a lot. I mean, you're obviously a writer, a comic, an
Hmm.
actor as well. I
Hmm.
could see you acting some more, and hopefully you get a shot too, because I mean, you're hilarious, man. I was looking some stuff up on YouTube of you the other day. Um,
Hmm.
but what are some things that are not related to things you've already done that maybe you want to accomplish?
Um, I don't know, to be honest with you, right? And because when we talk about what you want to accomplish, right? Like, I don't. It's like the thing in this business is I don't have. I personally, this is just me. I don't have a goal in mind, right? And I know that may sound crazy, because a lot of you guys, and we're talking about like a lot of people who work in different businesses. You have a goal, like I want to do this, or I want to make this by this time, and blah 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 blah. Like me, I am enjoying the journey. I'm enjoying, where I'm enjoying where I'm what's in front of me, what's in front of me, and I'm enjoying what can be or what will be. So it's
Yeah.
like I don't have a whatever make I didn't like when I first started stand up back in 2007. I never wrote a script a day in my life. The industry involved and it changed, and then you had to adapt with that. Same thing with podcasting. I never thought about a podcast a day in my life when I was younger. I didn't think about a radio show, right? I didn't think of any of that. It just happened over time because the industry shifted, and now it's like, okay, I see it's here. Let me take a shot at it, and then you end up becoming good at it. Same thing with any
Absolutely.
kind of content creation. That didn't come from me having a goal. That came from the fact that it was like, all right, the industry is shifting. Here's where we are. This is where we maybe need to go.
Do you remember how long ago you were on your first podcast?
My first podcast was like 2015. It was called my first podcast. What the hell was that shit called? What was it called? I forget. I think it was called Respect My Thoughts or something like that. But it was me, another comedian by the name of Malik S, and another guy named O'Neal McKnight. And we were just, yeah, it was just us fucking around. You know what I mean? We didn't know what we was doing, and it didn't take off. It didn't do anything. We didn't back then. We didn't have video to put out clips or anything like that. So it was just something fun to do.
Yeah. And that's what I love, man. And I think you're right. A lot of society gets away from doing those things that like you can get enjoyment out of. And that's what I
Hmm.
love about what you're saying here today. Do the things that are going to make you feel alive, do the things that are
Hmm.
going to make you feel a certain way. So naturally, it's just going to come out better. You're going to perform better, what have you. And
Hmm.
that's super key, man. And that's for anybody. Like the people that are going about their days, the day to days, like you were saying, with jobs or sales jobs that have goals or whatever, there's still enjoyment or things they can do on the side to find that space for them to be
Hmm.
creative, to let loose a little bit, and all that, man. So I'm starting to see more and more of that as time goes. But I do feel like sometimes society lately has slipped maybe from, loving the here and now and the present moment as much,
Hmm.
and that's where I think you do a really special job. And the stuff I see of you, the content that's put out there, and obviously the performance that I keep referring to.
Hmm.
But that's key, man. Just being in the moment, embracing every bit of it, enjoying it,
Hmm.
finding the good in it. Being optimistic about it, and that's key, man. That's key to excel, in my opinion. And
Hmm.
society is just fast paced, fast moving these days. You see a lot of people basically walking around like zombies out there, not doing the
Hmm.
things that they love, and then you see it kind of taking its toll on them. And I think that's super key. And that's one of the reasons you inspire me, man. I think what you do is hard, and I know there's going to be a lot more for you and a lot more on the way. But tell me, man, what is it that you want to say to somebody that might be starting out, taking some risk in life, and maybe they're in their 20s or 30s and want to start something new, start something fresh. Maybe it's something they love, but they're just a little nervous, a little scared to do it. What kind of advice would you give them?
Stop being a punk and just do it,
True.
right? Like, what's the like? Because here's the problem. The reason why you're probably scared to do it is because you think that it's not going to be received well, or you believe that, like, here's the thing, right? Like, because you need instant validation, right? Like, if it doesn't blow up immediately, it's like, oh, well, I failed at it. It's like, nah, you didn't fail at it. It's just not your time yet. It takes time. Like, things take time. Like, there's nothing wrong with taking your time.
For sure.
That's what I got. There's nothing wrong with taking your time.
100%.
Right. So just go up there and just do whatever it is that you want to do. You just do it. Right. Like, stop overthinking it. Right. A lot of people overthink and they talk themselves out of shit all the time.
Well, also, I mean, you're wearing a Chris Webber jersey. He's one of my favorite players, and probably yours if you're wearing the jersey. And I'm rocking the Hornets right here. No, you
He's
don't.
definitely not one. No. We got.
All right,
So here's the
we
thing.
can talk. We can talk basketball now. So
Not even talk basketball. Let me tell you this about black people. Right. We don't wear stuff because it's our, like, if you see me in Phillies gear or Eagles gear or Sixers gear, that's different because I'm an Eagles fan, Sixers fan, Phillies fan. I'm Philadelphia first. But if you see me in like another team or stuff like that, it's not because I love the player. It's just because I think the jersey is fly. You know what I'm saying? I think that, that's part of my style. It's part of my get up these days, right? Like, I've been wearing a lot of jerseys, right? Like, I don't know what it is about Mitchell and us right now, like, but they've been very generous to me and making sure that I've always laid out some dope ass throwbacks. Like, right here, I'm probably on the next podcast episode, I'm wearing, this Kings jersey
that's
from Jason
fresh.
Williams. You know what I'm
Jay
saying?
Williams,
And
yep. Jason Williams.
but he's not one of my favorite players. It's just that the jersey is fly. It's a good color. It's purple. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
that's it. Like, a lot of times it's just a fashion statement, right? Like, I got a Chipper Jones jersey. I'm not a fan of Chipper Jones. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, I love it, man. Those are some awesome jerseys, though. I'm gonna give you props on those. So whoever's helping you
Yeah,
out, whoever you reference there, props to them for hooking it up.
for sure,
But
for sure.
no, what I was getting at, man, these players in the NBA, let's say, like a Steph Curry or
Hmm.
something, when these people
Hmm.
talk about like how good they are, and even when they talk about
Hmm.
how good they are, and they just get in the zone,
Hmm.
they get in the zone. It's almost like automatic, right? Because they've been
Hmm.
doing it so long that it takes that
Yeah,
preparation and all the things that they've done before that to make it look so easy, right? And it's all the stuff that they're doing when nobody else is looking.
I agree.
And that's one thing that I think is super key, man. It's you're not going to be good at things when you start them. Nobody is
Right,
at
right,
all.
right.
So it's what you're doing in the unseen hours and the time that it takes to build up to get to a comfortable place to make it look easy, right? And that's just an easy thing to talk about when you're talking about athletes, because they go up there and make
Hmm.
millions of dollars because they make it look so easy, right?
Right,
And
exactly.
and entertain us with that. But like anything, it takes time, man. So I just want to uh, have people go out there and try something that makes them happy. What's the worst that can
And,
happen? Like you said.
and then the rest ends up coming.
Yeah.
That's just the bottom line.
Yeah,
The rest ends up
follows.
coming.
And consistency is key with that. If you found
Hmm.
something you love and you might not be good at it at first, but you found something you love and fall in love with, you keep doing
Hmm.
it and eventually things spin off from that. And it might not be the
I
way you
agree.
thought it would be, but things tend
Hmm.
to happen for you just through pure effort
Be,
and consistency,
yep, I agree. Yep, that's
and,
facts.
and then another thing, man. So you mentioned Philadelphia. I saw James Harden was in the news right now. Are you a James Harden fan?
No, no comment.
Yeah, because
No comment.
all right,
No
all
comment.
right. Now one dude we can agree with though, Embiid.
No comment.
No,
I have nothing to say about the Philadelphia 76ers right now until they show me that they want to be a top tier organization. I'm no longer giving them my energy.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So let's switch gears because a team that I really like that's up and coming, that's
Hmm.
got the top leader, one of the top leaders in the league, Jalen Hurts and the Eagles.
Hmm.
What's your take
Now
on
they do
him?
get. I mean, Jalen Hurts he proved everybody wrong.
Right.
Everybody said that he wouldn't be he wasn't a starting quarterback in his league. They said that he couldn't do this, and this, and he proved everybody wrong, including me. Right? I said before the season, no, I said before the season that if Jalen Hurts, the Eagles are going to go as far as Jalen Hurts take them, and you see where we ended up going. So, he uh uh and yeah, that's just it. That's it.
Well, let me ask your opinion with this, man. Do you think it's because of like some of the intangibles, like his leadership qualities and how he is with people in general, or do you think it's just the skill
I
that he
can't
gives
speak.
and
I
leading by
can't
example?
speak. I can't speak to that. Right.
Hmm.
I can't speak to that because look, it looks like he's a leader. But you don't know. I don't know what goes on in the
True.
locker room. You know what I'm saying? But it seems
True.
like yes, he's a leader.
Yeah, true. I'm excited to see what happens with that and how it unfolds, man. He's still young, so a lot of time to get exposed, right? And see what happens there. So he's a guy I'm rooting for. But obviously I'm repping Charlotte over here, so I like my Panthers, even
Hmm.
though who knows what's going on with them too. Probably in the same boat you're feeling about the Sixers. It's like, show me something, Panthers. So we'll see what happens. But nah, man. So with you and the podcast that you have out, are you typically featuring others on the podcast, and how do you go about choosing those people to be on there with you?
It just depends, right? Like I'm not that guy. I do it. Like I don't just invite people on the podcast who just want to come on the podcast. A lot of people want to come on the podcast and just want to argue music. I don't have time for that, right? Like no, I just don't. I'm not.
Yeah.
That's not the business that I'm in, right? I don't need or want to argue with you, right? We just having a conversation, and I bring people on who I respect their music. You know what I'm saying? I respect their music taste. You know what I'm saying? Like that's it. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Nah, I'm just curious as somebody that's into podcasts. I love listening to podcasts, and
Mhm.
certain niche have certain guests, and then certain people bring their friends on, and then certain
Yeah.
people
So
have like a strategy.
I bring people on who I know music, and then also like if an artist wants to come on or something like that, I definitely will oblige depending on who the artist is and what they're about. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't. We're not a we're a music podcast, right? So like we're not about negativity. We're not about we're not about negativity. We're not about you know the tea as they call it, or talking about mess, or talking about music drama or drama in the business or anything like that. Like this is strictly a music conversation.
Hmm. Hmm. So
You know what I'm saying?
other than Jay-Z, who do you think made like a huge impact in music growing up?
That's a hard question, man. Like you got who do you think made a huge impact? There's millions of thousands of or hundreds of artists who've made a huge impact, and also impact is subjective, right? It depends on you saying did it impact you? Did it impact me? Did it impact the genre? All of that. Um that's hard to really quantify, right? And it's like you can't no, because that's a very that's a broad ass question, right? Like I can't
Hmm.
sit here and say this or like I could go on and on and on about artists who've done that. So it's like for me that's a hard question to answer, right?
And that's why I think the podcast you're doing is successful, man, because you're being specific and clear about the
Yeah.
messaging and what you're talking about, right?
Hmm.
And you keep making these good points, man. I appreciate it. But I mean, one thing that stood out for me growing up, like my brother is older, he's 13 years older, so he was influenced by different music. Let's say he was even a DJ 25 plus years ago, right? So there were different music that he was into that kind of helped me kind of mold into liking different genres. So
Hmm.
you mentioned hip hop. I know you've talked about R&B. Are you into all sorts of music, or is it mainly just those two you're going to discuss?
No, I'm in everything, and we discuss everything on the podcast. We don't
Perfect.
just we're not a limited we're not limited. I'm not limited, right? Like my ears aren't limited. I talk about hip hop and R&B because those are my favorites, right? But that doesn't mean that jazz doesn't exist. That doesn't mean that country doesn't exist. That doesn't mean that pop doesn't exist. That doesn't mean that classical music doesn't exist, right? Like gospel, like we go through it all. It's just a matter of who do I want to have those conversations with, and when do I want to have those conversations.
Yeah. And what type of music are you most likely to go out to go see and buy a ticket for?
R&B and hip hop.
Okay. So jazz isn't on the list at all? Like,
Well, you got to remember, like some of the best jazz artists are no longer here, right?
fair.
And even the jazz artist who's out right now, it's nothing personal against them, but it's like, yo, like I'm just not going out to purchase a jazz ticket. That's just not where I'm at right now.
Yeah. And what do you think as far as like going, because tickets for everything are becoming more and more expensive, right? So the average person is going to feel painful buying a ticket. So what do you
Hmm.
think makes up a good show for some of these modern day performers?
That's hard. That's again, that's another hard question, right? Like,
Hmm.
I don't, I have different expectations from different artists. You know what I'm saying? So, like, a hip hop, like somebody like Beyonce, yeah, I expect the world, right? Because that's Beyonce. And I'm not saying I expect the world, but I expect a damn good show because of who she is and what the, you know what I'm saying?
For
Like,
sure.
I don't expect the same show out of like a artist like Ari Lennox. I don't expect the same show out of a Jill Scott. Not to say that they don't perform well or they don't have good shows in their own right. It's like Beyonce's it's an entertainer. That's different. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm. And do you have any artists that are, because I've heard a lot of you talk, I've heard a lot from your podcast talking about the different decades and the different genres that you mentioned, but from like 10, 15, 20 years ago. And you get specific with the years and everything when you talk
Hmm.
about it.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
are there any like modern up and coming artists that you would say, hey, I like what they're
You
doing?
know, can I be honest real quick?
Uh huh.
I hate that term. I hate that term, up and coming artist. Right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't like because at this point, like, what do you consider not up and coming? What do you consider a Rob? What do you consider like? Look, like when somebody tells me I'm an up and coming comedian, right? It's like that's crazy because at the end of the day, like I my what I bought a house, I pay for it, like I own a like you know what I'm saying, like
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a job, so I'm not up and coming, right? Like there's people who know who I am just because. So prime example, right? Let's have this conversation. Like let's take a country star, like no, for real.
I
Name
love
me
it.
a country. Give me a country star who's not Garth Brooks or somebody like that. Give me a just a decent country artist.
Chris Lane.
Okay, so Chris Lane is famous in his own right, right? But guess what? If you bring Chris Lane, you have him walk down the streets of North Philadelphia, nobody's going to say, "Hey, man, there go Chris Lane right there."
Right.
We don't care, right? Because at the end of the day, but that doesn't mean that he's up and coming, or that doesn't mean that he hasn't arrived. We just don't know who he is because we're not in it. He's not our genre, right? So to say somebody is up and coming to me all the time is it's such, it kind of boxes them in, right?
Mm.
Because it's like let's be real, right? Like okay, right? Like a country star, like there's only people don't realize there's only like 10 superstars in music. If we're being honest, there's only like 10, right? There's Garth Brooks. Because here's the thing: the only way you're a superstar is if I know who you are and I don't listen to what you do. I don't listen to Garth Brooks, but I know who he is. I don't listen to Taylor Swift, but I know who she is. I don't listen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Some women, a lot of people. You know what I mean? Like you know, there's people who, you know, where are you from? Charlotte?
Yeah.
There's people in Charlotte, right? Like I'm talking like middle-aged white men, white women who don't listen to Jay-Z, but they know who he is, right? Like that's just they know they don't listen to Drake, but they know who he is. That is a superstar. And let me be real, there's not a lot of them out there. So then when you go start going down the totem pole of who's famous and who's not famous, again, that's a subjective conversation.
Yep.
So for me, it's like to say like, oh, what up and coming artists you like? It's like, nah, like I don't think they're up and coming. They're professional artists. They make money doing this. They have albums out. Y'all just don't know about them because y'all not hit to the genre. Whose fault is that?
Yeah. No, valid point. And the thing about Charlotte now, and I know with Philly since it's established city, we got a ton of great music venues out here, man. Like
I know
The Fillmore
the
Underground, the
Fillmore, the
amphitheaters,
Music
etc.
Box.
And some of the best artists I've ever seen that I never heard of are at the smaller venues, right? And eventually, you know, they keep growing and growing as long as they're sticking with it, right? But those are some of the artists that I've had the most fun like exploring and getting to know, right? It's those you've not necessarily heard of, but you go for the
But
experience and
again, when
end
we
up
talk about
falling.
what you haven't heard of, right? So like prime example, right? Have you heard of Larry June?
Larry
But you
June?
probably heard of him.
No.
Yeah, but you probably heard of, or yeah, you don't. But he's not an up and coming artist, right? He's a very well known rapper. Y'all just don't know him because you don't listen to him.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I need that. I need that. Give me any good
But
stuff you got. But no, that's what I'm saying. So I like how you define it, and I get what you're saying completely. And the reason I even said Chris Lane is because it took like 10 years before he was actually doing like bigger shows, right? And
right, but again, he could be doing. He's doing probably huge shows. But guess what? I don't know who the fuck Chris Lane is. Right, like,
exactly.
but that don't
Yeah, yeah.
that doesn't invalidate anything that he's doing and anything that
Mm-hmm.
he's done.
Mm-hmm.
Right, I personally have never seen Chris Lane do anything ever, and probably won't ever listen to Chris Lane if I'm being honest.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because he doesn't sing a genre that I'm interested in.
Yeah, fair
Now,
enough.
if he scores a hit, like and here's the thing, let's be real, right? Only reason why I know who the fuck Taylor Swift is in the first place was not because of Taylor Swift. It's because of Kanye West. That's how I was introduced to Taylor Swift. I had never heard of Taylor Swift before Kanye West. Now, there's people who listen to me like, "Oh, that's blasphemous." It's like, no, yo, she wasn't big in the black. Now, yes, black people know exactly who Taylor Swift is.
So let me ask you this, man. You said a name. I enjoy his music. Where do you personally rank Kanye West in hip hop?
He's number 2 on the all-time greatest hip hop artist.
Okay, and I agree. And have you watched the documentary about him? I can't remember what it's called, but
Yeah, it's called Genius.
yeah,
Genius. Yes.
yeah.
Yes. I've watched it. Very good stuff, man. Shout out to my boy Cootie who did it.
Yeah,
Who's the you know.
yeah. He did a great job, man. So I want to give a shout out to that. But I think he's so talented, man, and that story is just amazing too. But
He's very talented.
yeah, so I love that. But no, I mean, so when it comes to some of these artists that are up there, that are on that large scale that we're talking about here, you mentioned a few of the names. One thing I want to know, though, in your opinion, and this is for your opinion, what about R&B? What are maybe your top 3 right now?
PJ Morton, Ari Lennox, and PJ Morton, Ari Lennox, and probably Alex Isley are my favorites right now.
Perfect, man. I need some of that. But that's one thing that, like, growing up, I mean, we're in our 30s, so growing up, we had the Casey and JoJo's of the world and stuff like that, man. So when you were younger, let's say, who were maybe your top 3 in R&B?
I mean, that's
Like let's say like 20-ish years ago.
so 20 years ago, I'm about 16. I was a big fan of Music Soul Child. I was a big fan of Usher, and I was a big fan of saying 20 years ago.
Yeah, I like Music Soul Child answer though. That was a good one.
Yeah, we'll just keep it at those two. Those are the guys. Those are my
Yeah,
favorites.
I mean, Usher hit after hit, right? So, and he put on performances, man. Shout out to that. But yeah, I mean, so are you about to record today for the podcast?
Yeah, I am recording. That's why I got a hard out in about 15 minutes. But yeah, I'm recording today. Got some guests coming on, and
awesome.
we about to talk about some talk music. You know what I'm saying?
I love it, man. And how many episodes in are you now?
With this podcast, we're now at episode. We're going into the 80s. So right now, today we released 77 on Monday, 78 will be Friday, 79 will be Monday again, and then episode 80 will be next Friday.
Yo, I love it, man. Keep it up. Keep up the good work in that. I'm getting a lot out of it. I'm loving your content, and I truly appreciate that. And it's been a joy for me to have you here. And thanks for keeping
having me.
Thanks for keeping it real, man. I mean, that's what it's about. I want to get into the mind of Clint Coley over here and see what you're about, man, and see how you look at things, because people need to know that, like, they don't have to be in a box, right? You don't have to be like somebody else. You got to be you. You got to be your authentic self and what you're about. And I just want to inspire people in that way. So I appreciate you keeping it real today and just you know, I want to give you all the respect you deserve too, man. I appreciate you from my heart. And just keep
Thank
doing
you.
your thing, man. I expect
Thank you. You
to
too,
see
man.
big things from you because I know you got it within you, and you're already crushing it and continue to do so, man. So I'll be looking out for you. If anything comes up, let me know. Let people know how they can find you and where all they can find you, so they can give you
Just
some more love.
it's just Clint Coley everywhere. CLINT COLEY, and it's everywhere. Clint Coley on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, the Spill app, and also on YouTube.
Man, I love it. I love it. Appreciate you once again, man, and can't wait to get
Hmm.
out there to Philly or wherever you're at next to come see you, man. But
For
yo,
sure.
enjoy the rest of your week, man. Stay cool out there, and if there's anything you need, let me know.
No doubt, man. Appreciate you.
I appreciate you,
All
boss.
right.
Have a good one.
All right.
I've been chasing all these dreams, I'm getting very close. Your work shouldn't feel like work if you really love it. If you set and you know your worth, then think if it's worth it. But I do count my blessings first, so you know I'm grateful every night. But watch me, baby, I'ma take it there. Tell ya I'ma stay the path. Tell ya I've been chasing all these dreams, I'm getting very close. Here we go.